about the impact on something like public health. When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air.
Reduce pollution. What she's still not saying anything though. When we invest in
Ex-
reducing pollution, when we
ex-
invest in electric vehicles, which people aren't buying by the way, the electric vehicles are now piling up the same way the cars have piled up in racetracks across the UK and the United States. They haven't been successful in shoveling it down people's throats. And now when you compare them, you'll notice if you start watching these electric car commercials carefully, Eric, very few of them actually show the car driving. A lot of it's how it's parked and where it's charging and how you can charge it at home, or it's a CGI rendering like pictures of the Earth from space. I got to throw that stuff in there, right?
you're looking clear though now. You're
Thank you.
clear. Okay.
It's the internet's a hell of a drug. So they're failing it because they've pushed it. They didn't want to wait for, their green energy buddies to make the money naturally, because it would have happened if it was said 10 years from now, and nobody told you that you need to buy an electric car or else you're garbage. Then if it's not my only car, just like Joe Rogan in this case, where he's got 50,000 cars, if you have the money, you're probably going to buy an electric car. Why not? Like, it's cool. It goes fast really quickly. Can't drive very far, but maybe 10 years from now, it can drive a lot further when the batteries are better, and then that makes it worth buying. They said that the average car was $29,000. Well, now people who pre-ordered those F-150 Lightnings are finding that you can't really get one unless it's a 60,000 or above, after they booked them for 39,000. So they've really tried to force it here, Eric. And what they continuously do is they make these goals and they make these promises that they can never keep, and they make these claims about the environment that never come true. The glaciers and the icebergs and the penguins and the polar bears and the lions and tigers and the bears, oh my, and then none of it happens. And then you have literal stupid people like Kamala Harris come onto the stage and say, the thing about trying hard is about the trying and the hardness of the try, and stuff like that. And you don't have an Al Gore and John Kerry, who we're going to get to. You have literal brain morons, as Mr. Burns would say, trying to propagandize people to the point where it doesn't even matter. Because if they were to rely on these people, then they would be out of business. But the problem is that they have so many elites on their side that can drive this, that it doesn't matter how well it actually does. It doesn't matter how well their ideas work, as we see in cities. Shout out Danny Mullen, New York City today, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle,
Leroy.
Detroit, Chicago. Shout out Leroy Press. All these places where their policies constantly fail, it doesn't matter because they cheat their way to the top.
Yeah, well, of course, and here we are again, using the assumption that they mean any of this stuff, which obviously they don't. It's all a game. Like, the joke's on us, right? That's joke's on us. They don't mean any of this, and so yeah, the bottom line is, no matter how you slice it, it's bad. Okay, like she's either lying or she's evil, which has been my stance for a very long time now. And on top of that, as somebody who has recently driven clear across the country, made multiple road trips in the last 3 or 4 years since the scariest virus on the planet appeared, how does that work? I mean, not rhetorically, but like, if I drive 3 or 4 hours and fill up a tank full of gas, how does that work with an electric car? We'll say Tesla, because I think they probably are the biggest name in electric cars right now. But so, do I stop at a charging station for an hour? Is there a line? I mean, how does this actually work? Because I know if I leave Phoenix, Arizona, and drive 3 hours into the western portion of Texas, I can fill up my gas tank for whatever, $40, $60, whatever it might be. Okay, it actually, in Texas, it's the best it's been, which is probably still higher than it was in 2020. Different story, but you have that predictability. You shout out Buc-ee's. You can go to Buc-ee's. You can get the cheap gas. You can go get a pulled pork sandwich. I mean, where do you go? And I say this from genuine experiences. Most people, or anybody who has followed my content, knows I've moved around. I'm driving around in my little car. Does it work the same? Do I stop every 3 to 4 hours and fill up? It takes me, if I don't even go inside the gas station, it takes me 5 minutes tops to clear the windshield of bugs, fill up the tank, and get back on the road. How does that work with an electric vehicle?
Oh, you're asking a legitimate question, not a rhetorical.
Yeah, I mean, do you stop at the same gas station and put it on a charger for 5 minutes?
No, it's I believe it's usually like $1 for a minute for a mile. You know what I mean? Generally speaking, 60 minutes you're gonna get a 60-minute drive. These are big batteries. But what they tried to do in Canada is they commissioned this whole let's build out the electrical charging grid, which of course we can throw to the famous clip where the guy admits or the lady admits that the building no, it was a guy. They asked
there was one with a lady though. There was one with a woman.
They asked a female politician how it's powered. She says the power comes from the building for the electric chargers. Then they ask a guy who works in the building. He says that coal plant down the street there is what powers the building. So what they did in Canada, they tried to build out this gigantic network of electric car charging facilities, charge stations, I guess you could call them. And they forgot where they put them. They didn't know where they put them. They wanted to make a map of where they all were, and they're just like, we don't know where we actually built them all. So they hired a third party who has an app. You know, there's apps out there that exist for where to charge your electric car. So they had to pay a couple $100,000 to get a third party to find all their charging stations so that the government could properly list them. I'll look that up in a second. So what Biden wants to do now is he wants to use Elon Musk and his supercharging stations because they do have the fastest charger. That's true, but we covered this a couple months ago where he wants to use Elon's method to not only reach the number of cars that they produce per year, the electrical cars, but to also reach the amount of car charging stations that they're hoping to get to, which they still will not reach. So take that as you
will. California already has a problem with the electrical grid, right?
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right. So yeah, it's all fake. It's all completely malicious, and they would love nothing more than to control your every waking moment. Neither here nor there. I mean, I'm sure if you were last thing as per my signature, I'm sure you would get the entire presentation on how this works when you go in there to buy an electric car. But I haven't looked into it, so I'm just genuinely curious how many miles, how many minutes, how many hours are you getting before you have to recharge again if you wanted to make a cross-country drive? Because I'll let you know, on my trip, I didn't see any electric cars anywhere between Phoenix and Florida, right? So how many miles do you get? And when you are out, how long does it take for you to recharge? And I guess they would tell you that, or maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. Maybe the Tesla salesman won't tell you that. I truly don't know. But neither here nor there, I guess.
So they say that they're building 65,000 new stations, but an industry group says you need to be building millions of stations. So now, Eric, we got to look up how many gas stations are there in Canada. But I'm guessing there isn't millions.
But you can't do that in California because they're telling you have to buy an electric car, or there's not going to be any more new gas-powered vehicles sold after 2030 or whatever it is. And then inside a week, they're telling you, actually, our grid is under stress, and maybe don't charge it. We're going to go ahead and ask you not to run your dishwasher, not to run your washing machine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely through the roof. And of course, as we know, if you are to notice any of it, then you're the bad person. So asking the questions is completely out of the realm of polite society.
So there are 11,893 retail gas stations in Canada. And I just went ahead and was generous and said there's 12 pumps at each station. That's 144,000 pumps. Because I don't know if they, by 65,000 new charging stations, they mean like a gas station sort of thing. You would think so. Or if they mean by charging station an individual thing that you can charge with. So I was generous and said that there's 12 pumps at every Canadian gas station, which would equal 144,000 pumps across the country. But they want to build millions of gas stations in Canada, or charging stations in Canada. This makes absolutely no sense. It just goes to show you, once again, like, find me an example where we're talking about electric vehicles where it's not either completely unattainable in terms of their goals for everything, or it's completely fabricated to the point where it doesn't make any sense and it's just a virtue signal.
Turn it up, Jordan.